You want to abuse caste. You want to eliminate caste. You want to destroy caste.
Caste is till date creating problem. Manipur is burning down.
Caste in business unites. Caste in politics divide.
Caste is something that the British got is. Now that we are, especially after PM Modi has taken over, there is an effort, a cautious effort to decolonize India. So, in the process of decolonization, should we not eradicate caste instead of celebrating it?
Eradicating caste has been attempted by Lord Buddha to Ambedkar. DMK is a caste-based party.
DMK is someone who's against caste.
Again, caste is on the outside, but not in practice. In Tamil Nadu, so many counters to be in cabinet, so many Vanniers to be in cabinet. These are all decided. Out of 38 or 40 districts, not a single district secretary belongs to the SC/ST community. So this is just.
Hello and welcome to Chanakya's Face Off. Today we have with us retired professor from Indian Institute of Management and author Professor R. Vaidyanathan. So we're going to talk to him about the reissuing or reprinting and publishing of his most famous book, Caste as a Social Capital. Sir, we would like to see the face behind the book, sir. Welcome to Chanakya. It's a great privilege to have you in Chanakya again.
Thank you very much, Mala.
How are you, sir?
It's namaskaram, namaste, vanakkam to all the Chanakya audience. It's always a pleasure to talk to Chanakya audience. I always mention it for the simple reason that they are very knowledgeable and provide very, very important and interesting comments which are very useful. I thank Rangaraj Pandey for this opportunity. I also thank Mala for the what one can call arrangement, technical as well as programming, and providing the stage. Thank you all. Now, the Caste as Social Capital is a book which is revised and enlarged and getting published by Penguins. It will be available in the market around mid-July, and it is also available in Amazon, Flipkart, and other such agencies. Now, preliminary one or two things we would like to mention. First and foremost is caste is not our word, Indian word. It is derived from Portuguese word. When Portugal went and conquered some of the Southern American countries, they began to talk in terms of conquista costa. That is the type of conquering they did of the local population, and that's how the word costa came, and that has become caste in English, which we are using. Earlier we were having only varna, fourfold categories, and jati, which is very well understood, and that is what is now called in English as caste. Now, first and foremost is we never had an idea of slavery. This is very important. Islamic civilization had slavery there, built their kingdom on slave labor. Actually, we had something called slave dynasty. Some of you may remember in the intermediate period before the British occupied the country fully and the Mughal kingdom fell down. We had a slave dynasty. And everybody knows America was built on slavery, and large portions of Europe were benefited by slavery from the African country. But Hindu civilization never had slavery as one of its ideas. Most important point to note. Second point to note is this caste oppression of 2000 years, 3000 years, depending upon whom you contact. Some say 10,000 years. There were no caste wars in India. There were no recorded caste wars. If people have been oppressed for thousands of years, there should have been wars. In Europe, for instance, every 20-30 years, there were wars between different clans, different groups, within Christianity groups, Christianity and Islam groups, and various types of wars were conducted. But in India, there were no caste wars. is something very interesting. If thousands of years people have been oppressed, how can there be no rebellion or war or anything? Anyhow, that is another interesting thing to note. Third is Sardar Vallabh Patel merged something like 540 plus kingdoms into formation of India. Many of you would know about it. This happened in the period of 47, 48 to 50. Hyderabad was the only one which was not enthusiastic, but they were also made to join by sending the police and other things. Anyhow, of these 540 plus, all of them were OBC, SC, ST kings. They were not anybody so-called upper caste or forward caste or anything. My American colleague used to jokingly say that India is the only country where the erstwhile rulers have got reservation today in jobs and education. No other country, the erstwhile rulers cannot be termed as backward or anything. But anyhow, we are a very interesting country. We will come to that. Now, the hierarchy of caste, in the sense the so-called Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, was created by the British in 1881 in their census document. Let me repeat it. The hierarchy was created by the British. Prior to that also caste were there, but no hierarchy. All the four castes were there. The only evidence which is quoted all again and again by people is Purusha Sukta, where it is told that the Brahmins came from the face and Kshatriyas came from the chest and Vaishyas from the belly and Shudras from the feet. But people don't recognize or realize that the feet of Lord is worshipped. If you go to some Vaishnav temple, there they put one sabari or the crown on your head. Actually, it is the feet of the Lord. The feet of the Lord is worshipped. And people who go to Tirupati, one of the questions asked is, did you see the feet of the Lord clearly? So this is the type of a thing. So it is not derogatory or anything, but that is the only sloga of Purusha Sukta which is quoted again and again for, and thousands of years there is no hierarchy. Hierarchy, I mean in terms of ABCD. This was created in 1881 by British, and they gave the justification that in our country we have senior, civil service officers, middle level officers, clerks and peon. So fourfold category of hierarchy is there in our country. We thought the same thing we will try to mirror image create in India. The most interesting thing is 1881 census had something like 1930 caste classification. And those days, there was nothing called aggregation of caste. For instance, nowadays we call Jat. There are 400 and odd Jat subcaste are there in the country. All of them are now called Jat because of political reasons. What I call the aggregation has taken place due to politics. Otherwise, people identify themselves as subcaste or sub-subcaste, another thing. Same thing about Tevar in Tamil Nadu. For instance, there are Agamadayars, Maravar, Kallar, all three. But nowadays, all of them are clubbed together and called Tevar. So in those days, this 1930 caste were provided, and they were all sub-caste and other thing. British were very unhappy. So for the 1891 census, they told the enumerator, you decide about the caste of the assessee. That is, if the person is having a tough, you put him as a Brahmin. If he is slightly well built, you say Kshatriya. Like that, most idiotic and stupid thing done by the British deliberately is to make the enumerator decide to which caste the person belongs. Nowhere in the world any census will have this, because the role of enumerator is to note down what is told by the person whom they are interviewing. Anyhow, the British created this deliberately in order to create caste divisions and divide and rule policy. In the northern part of India, they used Muslim and Hindus, and in the southern part of India, they used the caste division. And very interesting, the first census 1881, there were a large number of one-member caste, roughly 100. And so that is a so after that the hierarchy was decided by the enumerator, and till 1931 it was carried on every 10 years. 1941 there was no census. 1951 Nehru decided that we have become a casteless society, so he asked that column on caste to be removed. Only SC, ST were to be noted, and religious census was there. Let me repeat, after 1931, we don't have any caste census or any numbers to justify. This 1931 was used in 1981 by the Mandal Commission to decide reservation. That is the most absurd and anachronistic thing. Because in 1931, if there were 10% Jats in UP, the same 10% was used in 1981. It's unbelievable actually, because so much demographic changes were taken place. 1931, let me repeat, is the last year for which caste data is available in India. After that, any data suggested is what I call POTA data, pulled out of thin air. So you just, in a TV discussion, somebody mentioned in this constituency, Yadavs are majority. After that, I asked him, how do you know? He told, no, sir, the anchor was Yadav, so I thought better to tell that. So all this is just your imagination. 2011, when Chidambaram was the Home Minister, he asked parallel census to main census called socio-economic census, where caste information was collected. But that was a disaster. 330 million households were interviewed, 4.6 million caste were noted. That means 72 households per one caste. And there were so much chaos actually. 66,000 entries were not even clear to which caste they belong. And see, the caste, what we understand in our TV studios or in our discussion, is not the way in which common people understand. For instance, you say that this is a Jat caste, but when the enumerator goes and asks him, he doesn't, recognize himself as Jat. He recognizes one of the sub caste. Same thing about Tevar, same thing about Brahmins and all these things. So, government census handed over this data to Niti Aayog to classify and clean it around 2017, and this was just kept in Niti Aayog by two large steel almirahs. They have been locked and the key might have been thrown. And that is the last scene about the caste. The next one was attempted by Karnataka. Karnataka has been doing socio-economic census for a long period of time. In 2017, and the current chief minister was in charge that time. This 2017, again that data collected, census data on caste, it has been kept in two large almirahs in Vidhan Sauda, and the key has been. The reason is simple. Traditional belief in Karnataka is that Linkayat and Okaligas constitute largest, caste groups. Linkayat, there are 91 subdivisions in Linkayat, 9-1. Some of them are actually listed, Dalit community also. Anyhow, they are supposed to be 18-19%, but the census conducted in it revealed that they are not. They are hardly 11%. Same thing, Okaligas are less than 10%. Muslims and
May I interrupt for a question, sir? So
sure.
you mentioned that 1931 was the year when the last census was actually taken, and can you think of any valid reasons why none of the political parties after independence dared to take the census?
No. As I told you, Nehru somehow declared in 1951, we are a casteless society. Caste has been abolished. This was just not actually abolished. So none of the political parties wanted to get into that actually. When caste has been abolished, why, and they were all utilizing caste for the electoral purposes. Now, for off and on, the demand has come during that time, periodically, that caste census should be done and another thing. As I told you, 2007-11 it was attempted and it was a disaster. It's not very easy to count a number of people belonging to a caste. For instance, Brahmin is a general caste, but large number of people don't identify themselves in that caste. They identify themselves as belonging to Vadagalai or Tengalai or something like that. So the enumerator has to use that only. It's not a very, the
So that becomes
classification,
a subcaste, right? Like Vadama,
subcaste,
Vatima, whatever it
not a
is.
subcaste, subcaste.
Yeah,
That is
subcaste.
the
So,
thing.
but
Yeah,
no, but
so
for
that is
but for census purposes, we need to use the main caste or the
main caste you are telling.
primary
They
caste.
don't. Which is the main caste?
No, Brahmins is the main caste,
That
under
is
which you
what
have
you
Vaishnavas and
understand in
Saivas.
TV. That is what you understand in TV studios, but not
Hmm.
in practice. They don't think that this is for political purposes. This aggregation has taken place. A large number of people, average people, when you interview them, they don't recognize themselves to this larger grouping which you are suggesting. They recognize themselves as belonging to that sub grouping only. Why, you can't
No,
create a
but
larger
we have
grouping.
no, that is fine. But we have now, I mean, as you rightly mentioned, the British had just put all the subcaste into one big bucket and they have made some stories. That's fine. But now, even today in India, we could still collect these data and, categorize them, all the subcaste into some of the main caste, like OBC, BC, MBC, things
Very
like that.
very difficult, extremely difficult task. I told you
Mm.
there are 91 subcaste of Linkayat.
Mm.
Some of them are Dalits. So where do you put them? It's not it's very easy to think, when you go to grassroots level and a large number of people whom you think are backward caste, we will come to that. They don't consider themselves as backward when you interview them. They
So it
say
is not.
we are actually princely caste. We have been made into backward over a period of time. We don't accept we are backward, but they may collect a certificate for getting into jobs.
Reservations. Hmm.
Anyhow, so this is the anyhow. Now there is a clamor to have a caste census again. Everybody is talking about it. Even Congress leader Rahul Gandhi says we should do a caste census, and they simply do not understand the complications of doing a caste census. Anyhow, so that is a but each caste is a sampradaya. Let's be very clear about it. Dealing with birth, namakaran, mundakam. Some caste have the child naming immediately after birth. Some postpone it for 10 days, some for 6 months, some for 1 year even. They register the name, but they don't declare the name for 1 year. So there are as many type of differences in sampradaya. Similarly, for betrothal, marriage, childbirth of a woman and marriage, for instance, different caste have got different type of system. Nair marriage, before you remove your chapel and go inside, marriage is over, 5 minutes. While as there are other communities, caste which have marriages for 3 days. They have Sanket, they have this sort of all type of thing, and then so and death ceremonies, food habit, dress habit. So unless we recognize caste to be a sampradaya, different type of activities, it is not going to lead us anywhere. But there is a socio-economic census done by NSSO, National Service, National Statistical Service Office in 98, 2005, 2013, and the current one is yet to be released. There were 30 million enterprises in India in 98. Enterprises mean my nearby street vendor selling tomato and other thing to Ambani's company. All of them are considered as enterprises, non-agricultural enterprises, and they are classified, and they are, of course, some are called what one can call your own household enterprises, but they are called uh, what one with labor and without labor. Without labor is establishment. With labor is own account. Let's not get into the technical detail. But 30 million enterprises in 1998, 45% were owned by what we know as SC, ST and OBC. And 42 million in 05, 51% were owned by SC, ST and OBC. And 58 million, 58% were owned by SC, ST and OBC. Today, the rough estimate suggests, data has not been released, that roughly two-thirds of the enterprises in the country are owned by SC, ST, and OBC. This was something very, very important to notice. And that means large portion of various communities are entering into business. What I call Vaishyavization of India is taking place. Everybody wants to be a Vaishya. Everybody wants to be in business, and government is slowly coming out of Vaishya role, and hopefully it will take into account the Kshatriya role of protecting the country from within and outside. So large portion, and EMS Namadribad's grandson has written a nice book on this. Actually, New Capitalist. What type of caste are entering into? The traditional caste are entered into business are these Baniyas, Marwaris, and various, your Tapars, Goenkas, and Birlas, and Bangurs, and several others. That is a traditional route where you do the trading in cotton or jute and other things. Slowly get into manufacturing and become business. Then the agricultural caste became very dominant in terms of getting into business, like your Kamas, Reddys, then Tevers, the Gaundars, Nadars, and then the what one can call the Marathas, then Patels, so many other type of caste are also. For instance, Gaundars, who are the traditional agricultural community, there was a drought, and somewhere in the post-independence period, 60s, they went into this, what one can call knitting and doing the textile business, and they become very, very large in the world today. Actually, they are one of the largest exporter of textiles from Tirupur and Coimbatore and other. 2002 World Bank report of World Development Report 2002, kindly, if you look at it, 2 pages they have devoted how Gaundar as a community has, the caste has helped in terms of building up this textile empire. Similarly, 2 Nadars went from Sivakasi when there was a drought in the 30s to Calcutta. In those days, people used to go to Calcutta for jobs, not Bombay. Calcutta was the commercial capital of the country. And they joined Wimco, learned something about this matches making. They came back with the help of another Nadar from Trichy who funded them. They set up a small unit for making matches, and it developed over a period of time, and it is now one of the 75% of the Indian matches is supplied by from Sivakasi. They went into firecrackers. Because of requirement of paper, they went into printing technology, and it's a very large scale. So again, it's another cluster actually, which has gone into severe activity. Again, facilitated by lending, borrowing, market access, availability of labor, and all those issues were attractive. That is the social capital which was available to them. In US, it was the church actually which played the role of social capital. Presbyterian church, then you have the Lutheran church and various Episcopalian, and so people who go to the same church develop affinity, and then they go to the same college. Sometimes they get married, and then business is started within that group of people who are belonging to the, and the other talk about the bowling alley. Bowling alley of US is one of the areas where this type of a social capital is built. People become friendly, people become, and then so different places, different type of social capital. In our country, caste has been a very major social capital. LA was in US. I went to West Coast. I saw large number of these small motels are there. 20 room, 30 room, and other thing run by families. And most of these motels are run by Patels. They are actually called Patels, not motels anymore. A very small, bed and breakfast. You sleep in the night, have some coffee or tea in the morning, and then some toast and other thing. There, I found that majority of them is owned by Patels. Most of them are from Gujarat, Surat district. They are called Surtis also. It kindled interest in me, and I came to know that they have a good grouping, helping each other, and then facilitating starting of new motels by relatives who are coming from Gujarat, and then market access, rules and regulations local. To hire a lawyer or a chartered accountant is very expensive in US, but the community helps you to understand what are the rules and regulation, including your so-called parking zonal regulation, and then diversity regulation, recruiting people, and of course light-heartedly whom to bribe, whom to keep in good humor, and other thing. Anyhow, what I want to stress is when I came back, then I found that this Patel community has been a enormously cooperating and coordinating community. Similarly, when I was in Belgium, I saw I was staying in a hotel near Antwerp. That's a diamond center of the world. Actually, I didn't go there to buy a diamond. I went there for a conference. But I saw a board in the inn where I was staying in the ground floor, Jain meals. I was puzzled actually. I went and asked the manager. I have seen veg, non-veg meals. I have seen even halal board, but never Jain board. He told a large number of our customers are Palanpur Jains from. So that is why we have kept it. Later on, I came to know that the diamond industry in Antwerp, 70% is controlled by these Palanpur Jains. Wall Street Journal actually wrote an article that this is the first time in the history of Jews they have been defeated in business without violence. This is something very interesting. Jews had actually 70% of the business, which the Jains have taken over. They are 0.00001% of the Indian population, but their closely knit community, lending, borrowing, trust, various other. That is the social capital which we can easily identify. So this is what is kindled my interest to look at and study various group of these clusters. In India, we call them economic clusters. Government of India never recognize caste clusters. They are all caste clusters. Something like 900 and odd are there. Then there are unrecognized some another 800, 900 are there. Every cluster you go is a caste cluster actually.
So what will
Because
be the benefit of recognizing them as caste clusters? Till
no,
date,
they
even with
government of India in any of its report never mentioned caste
no,
because we are a
what is I'm asking you,
casteless.
what is the benefit of recognizing them as caste clusters?
Recognizing caste clusters is the greatest benefit is caste as a social capital is creating economic development of the country.
No, it is already
But
there.
well,
It is already there. So why do we have to recognize it?
no, nobody wants to talk about it. You want to abuse caste. You want to eliminate caste. You want to destroy caste.
Caste is till date creating problem. Manipur is burning down.
It is not due to caste. Anyhow, we will see these caste in business unites, caste in politics divide. Let's be very clear about it. We are talking about business and commerce, where caste has contributed phenomenally, and 50% of the GDP comes from these economic clusters. First time in 1980, when they wrote a planning commission about this leather industry, they mentioned about Muslims who are very dominant in the leather industry in Agra, Ambur, and other things. That's the first time the caste was mentioned as a. Till then, it was never given any recognition or importance actually. In the sense, that is the one which is creating the initial economic cluster. It is not Swayambhu, nowhere it just came up or anything. What is
Muslims
the
are
reason?
religious clusters, right? They are not
Huh?
caste clusters. No, Muslims
Huh?
are religious cluster, right? Even in Muslims, you
No,
have a
no,
lot
that
of caste.
I treat them also another,
Oh,
within
okay.
Muslim there are, let's be very clear, within Muslim there are Boras, there are Ahmadiyas, there are
Lot of
Sunnis,
lot of
all
caste.
these are,
Yeah.
they are all in a sense caste only, right? For
Mm.
instance, Ahmedabad kite industry, one of the largest industry, it was earlier 70 crore. Today it is of the order of something like 2000 crore. Because when Modi was chief minister, he decided to make kite flying as one of the major festivals of the country. And that is mostly Muslims who prepare the kites, and most of the Muslim women do it in their huts, in their slums. the kite thing. So everywhere there is a huge amount of benefit because of this attraction, and this is something which we have to keep in the back of the mind. So in service industry, I mean in terms of wholesale trade, retail trade, transportation, then your hotels and restaurant, in all these industries, huge amount of caste clusters are dominant. 90% of the working capital requirement of India is not meant by institutional finance. It is met by local
Caste.
moneylenders, chits, couriers, as well as the caste help. And NPA is very low because of the cost pressure, and because is a, you have a, you don't want to say that I won't repay or anything, and they all come to help you. That is most important when there is a crisis. So the social capital dimension of caste has never been recognized, and how it is a very major force in business and commerce. And as I told you, 50% of the our GDP comes from these economic clusters, and all of them are caste clusters. So we are actually a engines of our economic growth. One of the major dimension is caste cohesion, how they have, and that is the one which we abuse. In India, it's very peculiar. Whatever is something our strength, whatever gives us our, and we deride them. We don't want to treat their importance or anything. This is very common type of a thing.
I have one more question, sir, in this regard, because you've been mentioning, like as you clearly mentioned, we were a Varna-based society, and then it evolved slowly. We had jatis, and then the caste is something that the British got us. Now that we are, I mean, especially after PM Modi has taken over, there is an effort, a cautious effort to decolonize India, which was not done in the earlier 70 years to this extent. So, in the process of decolonization, should we not eradicate caste instead of celebrating it?
Eradicating caste has been attempted by Lord Buddha to Ambedkar. Okay, so many hundreds and hundreds of years. Incidentally, I want to correct you. British didn't create caste; they created caste hierarchy.
Hierarchy.
There is a lot
Okay.
of difference. Caste was always there. And incidentally, Dipankar Gupta and Eman Sinha, so many sociologists have written about it. Many of the so-called caste were having mobility from one level to another level. In the sense, the so-called caste which were traditionally the priestly caste, they became the kingly caste. Similarly, the many of the kingly caste, they became the what you may loosely call the business caste. This mobility was frozen by British by creating this hierarchy. So caste differentiation is the one which should be abolished. Caste per se cannot be abolished. Caste distinction between, as I told you, for 2000 years, there has never been any caste wars. In the post-independent India, because of electoral politics, people have begun to talk about caste. And let's say, for instance, I call it F20. The regional parties, 20 regional parties, all of them are family-based and caste-based parties. All of them. You take the party in Uttar Pradesh, it's a Yadav and Muslims. And it is a family-based. Malayam handed it over to his children. Lalu Yadav in Bihar handed it over to his children. That is again Yadav and Muslim-based party. And the Sharad Pawar, that is a Maratha-based party, he has handed it over to his daughter. And here in Andhra Pradesh, N.T. Ramarao, it was a Kama party, and Congress was considered as a Reddy party. So all in Tamil Nadu, you have every
In
jati.
Tamil Nadu, we don't have any caste-based
Right.
parties.
Is it? You have never heard about PMK?
No, PMK is there, but prominent parties, I'm telling you.
DMK is a caste-based party.
The DMK is someone who's against caste. How can we call
Again,
them
caste is on the outside, but not in practice. In Tamil Nadu, so many counters to be in cabinet, so many years to be in cabinet. These are all decided. Out of 38 or 40 districts, not a single district secretary belongs to the SC/ST community. So this is just for the outside world. Communists say there is no caste, but all their surnames are still Mukherjee, Banerjee, and other thing. Or their, this is just, and this is not the person who quite a number of years before recognized about the importance of caste, and then from that Oliver, this Malayam Singh and this what you call Lalu Prasad and so many. So all of them are caste-based parties, and all of them are family parties. Family party means you handed over power to your children. That's all, and that is the dynasty. Not having some minister here, some minister there, or something. BJP also. There are only 4 or 5 parties in India which are not controlled by family. Communist parties, both the parties, and AAP, AAP party, and BJP. All other parties are family-based party. Let's be very clear about it. And caste-based party. They depend on, now in Andhra Pradesh, Kapu, this Ranjivi is, so everywhere there is a caste-based clusters and other things. So everybody knows about it. That's nothing. Except everybody claims that they are against caste and other things. That's all. So, caste in business unites. That's most important thing. Caste in politics divides. In politics, caste has created this aggregation in terms of Jats, Tevars, and Yadavs, and it's trying to gloat over the
caste in social life also, I should say caste in social life humiliates, because identifying them as caste clusters is giving, it's like exposing them to the inequalities present in the society, right? So
there is no inequality is what you propagate.
No, sir. Now, recently in Tamil Nadu, we had a very controversial, I should say, an incident where a poem was read out about manual scavenging, and it was humiliating Lord Rama directly. But the reason cited was those people who are doing manual scavenging. I know we are bringing in stringent laws to stop manual scavenging, but then the people who are doing such jobs, by the nature of the jobs that they are doing, they are being identified as caste and they are being discriminated.
By whom? You see, I think Mala, you are taking this political discourse too seriously.
Oh, no.
Let me be very blunt.
At the social level, sir, at the grassroots level, are we not identifying
level you go and talk at that level? Why only in Tamil? You tell me, Tamil Nadu is supposed to be casteless, basteless, and all that thing. Why only in Tamil Nadu this manual scavenging is so prevalent even today?
This is in other states also.
No. Tamil Nadu is the largest manual scavenging state.
Yeah, probably it is more here, but it's prevalent across India. It is there.
No, it's I think you are confusing between caste and then
it has been eradicated.
You are confusing between caste and.
My point here is the social pressure. By identifying any caste clusters, will we not create additional social pressure to that people?
No, it's a way in which if you want to politicize it, you will create additional pressure. If you want to encourage it, you will create positive vibes. How many castes have really had wars, you tell me? Was there a war between Reddys and Kamas for thousands of years? Except in the post-independence period, for the voting purposes, you created this. Even today, say Gaundars and Nadars or Nadars and Tevar, they are all in good relation only. Nobody tries to create animosity, except by the political fellows who want to create votes. That's all. Nothing more or nothing less. And the other issue, what you mentioned, is about treatment of this SC/ST. That is one of the worst thing in Tamil Nadu, because all other OBCs have combined together. For instance, this PMK,
It is
And
worse
these people,
in states like Rajasthan. I would say Tamil Nadu is better.
huh?
It
Sorry?
is it is worse in states like Rajasthan. I would say Tamil
No.
Nadu is better.
Yeah, worst mean in which category?
In which category? The
In
way
Rajasthan are the Gujars and Jats fighting wars?
no, but untouchability is more there.
See, that issue is separate. That
Sir,
you
it's about
should not
treatment of
mix it up.
SC/ST, sir.
No, no, that you should not mix it up as the overall caste issue.
Mm.
That is the particular aspect of caste issue, which we have SC/ST reservation. We have so many type of laws and protection and other things. That is a because that issue is linked with what is called the removal of the human excretia that was created by the Islam, because Islam didn't allow women outside their home. Islam only had women inside the home who were doing the restroom inside the home. To remove that, they created this category called bangis. And this, over a long period of time, has been an issue. And those who remove human excretia are not to be treated properly. That's a very important separate issue. And they constitute something like 15% to 18%. That's not to be confused with the overall caste issue of other groups and communities. This is very, very important. Second is, don't go by the propaganda of the political leaders. For them, everything is a vote thing. If you can make a big issue out of one particular event, and that will become a major voting, and that will also help in creating impressions in US, UK, and other places and other things. Anyhow, the clusters and caste and the Dalits are in entrepreneurship. Not many people even know about it. There
That's
is
true,
one
sir.
Saroj who is some 600 crore enterprise she is running, Kalpana Saroj. And then Rathibai Makwana, he has got some 400 crore enterprise. Dalit Chamber of Commerce is now becoming very. So as more and more people get into business, Vaishyavisation of India take place, the caste discrimination will become much lesser. Anyhow, before we conclude, very important point I would like to mention is Swami Vivekananda says in this address, he came from US and he addressed all over the country. That time, Jaffna to Almora, it is called, because Jaffna was also part of larger India that time. He made this, and he says in Jaffna in 1897, the older I grow, better I seem to think of these caste and other time honored institutions of India. There was a time when I used to think many of them were useless and worthless. But the older I grow, he says he lived only 38 years. In India, 55 years is considered as youth icon today. Anyhow, so older I grow, the more I seem to feel a diffident in cursing any of the institution. Each one of them is an embodiment of experience of centuries. This is very, very important. So let's not use the British lens to measure our systems. That is one thing. Let me repeat that caste is one of the important engines of our economic growth, and caste in business unites people. In politics, it divides people in order to get votes, because our parliamentary system, how many votes you get will decide whether you come back to power or not. So let me end by saying that let us celebrate caste as a positive aspect of our business and economics. Let us not deride it or anything. And of course, we are not talking about discrimination. That is something which is unacceptable. Obviously, we are only talking in terms of caste system. So let us celebrate, give it importance in its own way and role. Thank you
Sure, sir.
very much.
And
Thank you.
your book is available in Amazon, right, sir? Now,
Yeah,
or
no, not just now. It will mid-July. It will be available.
it will be available in Amazon.
Yeah,
Okay,
Flipkart, various other.
perfect. Perfect. Thank you so
Right?
much for taking time and explaining it to us, sir. It's a great pleasure hosting you again. Thank you. Namaskaram.